So welcome to Thursday, and this is the last video that you have to watch for your Animal Life Cycle's final project. You should be either finished your project or finishing off your project today, and so you can submit it later today. If you've already submitted it, congratulations, you are done. You just have this one little tiny thing left, and that is your self-evaluation. So since we're not there to see how well you've worked and how hard you've worked, you are going to actually give yourself a grade for this, and we're going to combine it with all of your work so to give you a final grade. So this is for you to tell us how hard you worked, how much help you had. Maybe you needed a little bit of help, maybe you needed a lot of help. Okay, so you need to be super honest when you fill this out, and you can even have mom and dad check it over and give you a star if they agree, or you could have them maybe give you a note or something if they don't, just as an extra option if you wanted to be super honest with it. Okay, so this is what your Animal Life Cycle self-evaluation looks like. So as you can see, there are different questions on the end. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 7 parts that you need to answer, and each part you have a choice of giving yourself a 3, a 2, or a 1. Okay? Now, if you've given yourself a 3, you need to look at all of the ones on the 3 column. Okay? And we're going to go through each one. So if you agree with it, perfect. Remember, you have to be super honest with this. Okay? It's so important. The 2's column, okay, is in the middle, which is fine. And then the last column is this one, which is 1. Okay, so I'm going to go through and tell you about each option that you have to choose so you can start thinking about your answers now. And then I'll tell you what you're supposed to do at the end to fill this out. Okay, so for number 1, questions and answers, you have 3 choices. So the number 3 option is that you found the answers to all of your questions. You found them easily, you knew where to look, you Googled them, you went through the videos, you just remembered them. Okay, so you knew all of the answers. Now if you wrote your own questions, obviously you should have already known your answers. Okay, but if you had used my questions, did you know the answers? Did you maybe need some help to find them? If you knew all of the answers and you were able to find all of the answers and you got them all right, then you can give yourself a 3. Now for the second choice, number 2, you have that you found the answers to some of your questions. So maybe you went through, you watched the videos, you went through everything, and maybe there was only a few that you didn't get right. So if you went through my questions and you answered 20 of them, maybe you got a few of them wrong because you couldn't remember the answer or you put down the wrong thing. Okay, obviously if you did your own and you didn't check your answers yourself, then that could be a number 2 as well. So if you got a few questions wrong or some questions wrong, or you just didn't check your answers, so maybe if I sent you back a note saying, hey, this question is wrong, then you can give yourself a 2. Obviously, if you only got 1 or 2 questions wrong, that's fine. So maybe if you got 3 or more wrong, then you can give yourself a 2. Or if you couldn't find the answers and you just didn't submit some of your answers, then give yourself a 2. Now, the 1 column is if you couldn't find the answers to any questions. Okay? You didn't look, so you only sent me in your questions. You didn't send me any answers, or maybe you got all of your answers wrong, which I would have sent back so you could keep trying. Maybe you just didn't look. Okay? So if you only sent in your questions because you couldn't find the answers, then you would give yourself a 1. But I'm pretty sure that no one is on the 1. I think actually most of you are on 2 or 3. Okay? Probably mostly of you are on 3. So for number 2, it says independent work, questions and answers. So if you are a 3, you were able to find the answers to all of your questions by yourself. You didn't need any help from mom or dad or brothers and sisters or nannies or grandparents or me, you were able to find the answers, or maybe even you remembered the answers all by yourself, okay? No help at all, okay? Now, for number 2, maybe you needed some help from mom and dad a little bit, and that's totally fine. You can give yourself a 2 for that if you needed help from them just a tiny bit, okay? Now, if mom and dad had to help you for every single answer to every single question, then you need to give yourself a 1. And like I said, this is just so we know what this was like for you, and how well you worked, and if you needed help, if you didn't need help, so we can see if it was too hard, if it was too easy, that type of thing, okay? So that is questions and answers, independent work. So remember, a 3 if you didn't need any help at all from mom and dad, a 2 if you needed a little bit of help, or a 1 if you needed lots of help, okay? Then for number 3, we have game instructions. And for this one, you might need to give your instructions to somebody else to help you with it, okay? So number 3 choice is your instructions were very clear and easy to follow. So when somebody else reads your instructions, they know exactly what to do, exactly how to play your game, and everything makes sense and it's really easy, okay? Perfect. For number 2, maybe your instructions weren't in order. Maybe they were a little, some of them were, you weren't quite sure. Maybe if somebody else read them, maybe they looked at it and they're like, oh, I don't really know what number 3 means. Maybe you just needed to explain it a bit better. So if they were maybe a bit jumbled up, maybe not in order, or not always easy to follow, then you can give yourself a 2. And then for number 1, if your instructions were impossible to follow, so if I read them and I couldn't figure out how to play your game, or if somebody else read them and they couldn't figure out how to play your game, then that's a 1. Or if you didn't do your instructions at all, okay, a 1 as well. Now, for number 4, it's independent work on your game, okay? So again, how much did you get help? So for number 3, you needed no help at all. You did everything by yourself, okay? Obviously, if you're cutting cardboard or something like that, mom and dad are totally, I'm very happy for them to help you. If it was a little bit dangerous, cardboard's sometimes hard to cut and you need to use really big scissors, and they're really sharp scissors, so that's fine. But if you decorated your game, if you came up with it all by yourself, you came up with the idea by yourself, you wrote your instructions by yourself, everything done by yourself, that is number 3, okay? Number 2 is if you needed a little bit of help to make your game. So maybe mom and dad helped you with your idea, but then you did everything else on your own. Or maybe you came up with the idea, but then mom and dad helped you to make a game board, or to write the instructions, or something like that, okay? That would be 2. And then the third option is that you needed lots of help. So there was no way, you could not do this on your own. You needed a lot of help, either from mom and dad, brothers, sisters, nannies, grandparents, your teacher, okay? So you just needed help for your idea. You needed help to write your instructions. You just needed some help. You needed just a little bit of help to make this a little bit easier for you, okay? So the next choice, number 5, is neatness. So was your work as neat as it could be? Did I see your neatest work? Okay, did you write the questions neatly? Did you do your game neatly? Did you write your instructions really neat? Okay, it needs to be your neatest work. Was it your neatest work? Okay, maybe for number 3, it was. Okay, maybe that's your first choice. My work was the neatest that I could make it. So I couldn't make it any neater. I did my absolute best work. This was as neat as it could be. Okay, that's option 3. Option 2 is that your work was neat most of the time. So you did your best printing most of the time. But maybe at the end your hand was hurting, so you rushed to finish it. Maybe the end's not your nicest work. Okay, or it was super messy and your work was not as neat as you could have made it. Maybe you just sped through just to get it done, okay? And then your work wasn't neat, so that's the last option. For number 6, time management. Did you spread the work out and finish it early or on time? So did you follow my suggestion of doing 10 questions each day or 5 every day, so you had it a little bit less work. It was your best work, and then you were able to finish it either on time or early. Okay? Or number 2, you did all the work, but you did it all at once. But you still finished it on time, or maybe early, but you just did it all at once. So you didn't spread it out. You just did everything all at the same time just to get it over with, okay? That's a 2. And then the last one is that you finished your project late. So that would mean that you're not finished today and you're still working on your project, which is okay. Just make sure that you tell your teacher why, all right? And then the last one, number 7, is your efforts, okay? So did you try your very, very, very best to complete the work? Did you give me your best effort? That's number 3. The second choice was your best some of the time. So maybe for the questions you put in your very best effort, but then for the game board you didn't. Or maybe the game you did awesome and you were like, oh, I'm so proud of this, but then maybe the questions you're not. Okay, so maybe you're not proud of everything that you did. That would be a 2. And then number 1 is that you're not proud of your work at all because it's not your best work. Okay, maybe you think that you could have done better if you had more time, or if we had done it at school, or if you had other supplies, or for whatever reason it just wasn't your best work. Maybe you just weren't feeling this activity, okay? And you thought, you know what, this isn't my best work. That's fine. So those are the questions. Those are the 7 things that you need to answer. Now, how you're going to do it is you can either print this off, okay? And if you're printing it off, then you can just go through and highlight. So maybe you highlight this one, and then maybe that one, and then maybe that one, okay? So you're just going to go through and you're going to highlight it however you want, okay? Maybe it wasn't your best work, who knows? You're just going to highlight it, and then you're going to take a picture and you're going to send it to me on Class Dojo. Now, if you don't want to print it out, then you have another pretty easy job. You're just going to take your writing, okay? And then you can just write number 1 and give yourself a 3, 2, or 1. So number 1, 3, if you follow what I did. Number 2, 2. Just make sure that you put it with the dots. So number 1, number 2, number 3, because otherwise those will get confusing. Okay, so I put a 2, and then 4. Okay, so that's all you need to do. So you can either print it off and highlight it in, and then if you want to get mom and dad to check it over and give you a star if they agree, that's fine. Otherwise you can write it out, and again, mom and dad can still come in and give you a star if they agree with your answers, okay? Or maybe they want to write a note saying that they were so impressed with you or something like that, okay? Only if they want and only if you want them to. Otherwise, you just have to submit this to me, and that's it. So I look forward to seeing how well you guys think that you did and how you are going to judge yourself on your animal life cycle, just so we can see how well you think you did, okay? Or how well you did. There you go. So send this to me. Your self-evaluation is due on Sunday, so you can, if you haven't finished your game, please make sure that you finish your game before you submit your self-evaluation. Otherwise, you can send this to me today, and I cannot wait to see your answers.